Om Sri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. Every human being should lead his life or livelihood by doing any kind of work. Without work, there is no life. Work is not only called employment. Whatever the deeds we do by physically or mentally, whatever that is called work. And each and every work there should be devotion, mean dedication. When we get such a dedication, when we feel work is worship, then only we can get such a types of feelings. Then we can concentrate or devote much on our work to get the positive results and completion of the work without any kind of hurdles. Therefore, one should concentrate on his own work. The work is not only meant for livelihood. Whatever the action done by us, that is called work. For whatever the purpose may be, anything done by us called work. Even Lord Krishna says, you have rights only on doing your work without minding the results, whether it may be positive or negative. That's why I say, karmanyevadhikaraste mahapalesh kadachana. Your duty only doing your work, never expect in return any kinds of fruits. When we feel work is worship, our natural phenomena will be changed a lot. We will get respect from others so easily. When we feel whatever the work with a dedicated mind, devoted mind, the result also will come in positive manner and we get a lot of applauses. In this regard, we should concentrate more on our day-to-day work to complete, to finish it at scheduled time with deep devotion or dedication. God has given sixth sense only to the human beings, not other beings. Why? We can use our sense to complete the work, whether it is good or bad. We can differentiate the difference between good and bad. That's why he is given jnana. When we possess jnana, knowledge, and we have to get devotion, dedication on our work, then what happens? We yield results in a positive manner. Each and every work should be done with utmost interest only. Whatever the work you do, there should be interest, commitment. When we possess such a commitment, the yielding result also we get in a positive way. Therefore, we have to work for our sake. Whatever the work is done by us, it may yield the fruits according to the efforts we put on that work. Therefore, it is our prime duty to devote much on our day-to-day work. At the same time, our attitude also will be changed when we feel work is worship. Even the reciprocation also will be at our side, gives positive results. By observing each and every work with a deep dedication, we can get a result in positive manner. Our ancestors followed the path of work is worship. Therefore, we got freedom from Britishers. Each and every act they maintained the deep devotion and dedication on nationalism for freedom. Why? Because they felt whatever the work is done for the sake of nation, they felt it is work is worship. Similarly, we have to follow that method. Therefore, today I took the topic work is worship. Let us discuss in detail. Prayer. व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः. Work is worship. Work is meditation. Serve all with intense love, without any idea of agency and without expectation of fruits or reward. You will realize God. Service of humanity, service of God. Manava seva iva madhava seva. It's a famous sayings of Swami Vivekananda. Work elevates when done in the right spirit without attachment or egoism. If you are a devotee, feel you are nimitta or instrument in the hands of God. If you adopt the path of jnana, feel that you are a silent sakshi, mean witness, and that Prakriti does everything. All work is sacred. There is no manual work from the highest viewpoint. It is selfishness that has deplorably contracted your heart. Selfishness is the ban of human life. Selfishness clouds the understanding. Selfishness is petty-mindedness. Bhoga increases selfishness and selfish pravritti. It is the root cause of human sufferings. Real spiritual progress starts with selfless service, swartha-rahita seva. The spirit of service must be deeply ingrained in our very bones, cells, tissues, and nerves. The reward is invaluable. A karma yogi does not expect even a return of love, appreciation, gratitude, or admiration from the people whom he is serving. You must be very vigilant in scrutinizing your motives during action. You must be ever introspective. By and by, when the heart becomes purer and purer through constant work, your actions will be perfectly disinterested and selfless. In the mind, there are three doshas as mala, mean impurities like lust, wrath, greed, etc. Second is vikshepa, means tossing of the mind, and avarana means veil of ignorance. Mala is removed through nishkamya karma yoga. Vikshepa by means of upasana, means worship, and avarana by means of study of Vedantic literature and jnana. Karma yoga gives chitta shuddhi. It purifies the heart and prepares the mind for the dawn of knowledge. It is called jnanodaya. Only he who has reduced his wants and controlled his senses can do karma yoga. How can a man of luxury with his indriyas revolting serve others? He wants everything for himself and wants to exploit and domineer over others. Another qualification is that he must have a balanced mind. He must be free from ragadvesha, means likes and dislikes also. And an action which is ordained, done by one who is undesirous of fruit, devoid of attachment, without love or hate, that is called pure. Therefore, Gita says, Niyatam sangarahitam aragadveshatah kritam apala prepsuna karma yatat sattvikam. Action that is in accordance with the Scriptures, which is free from attachment and aversion, and which is done without a desire for rewards, is in the mode of goodness. You must learn the secret of renunciation or the abandonment of the fruits of action. Long is the lesson, toilsome the practice. You have to combine energy in work. In work with indifference to the result of the work. Aspirants must work as energetically as the children of this world, but they must substitute a new motive. They work that divine law may be fulfilled, that the divine purpose may be promoted, that the will of God may be carried out in every direction. This is a new motive, and it is one of the all compelling forces. They work for God alone. Thus, acting, they create no karma bond, for it is desire that binds. Now, the attainment of renunciation is difficult and requires prolonged and patience practice. The probationer will begin by trying to care less about the results brought to him personally by his actions. He will try to do his very best, taking equally whatever that comes. If success follows, he will check the feelings of elation. If failure, he will not permit depression to master him. Persistently, he will repeat his efforts and will do his best with every duty that comes his way, and will begin to show the balanced state of mind which marks the crowning strength and detachment of the soul. Bhagavad Gita does not teach that we should give up our work, but to perform our work motivated by the highest ideals. Arjuna, in the first chapter of Sri Bhagavad Gita, was speaking in a pseudo-spiritual way, that there is too much confusion in fighting this war, so I am not going to fight. Krishna, my charioteer, I am not going to fight. I am going to become a real saint and just practice meditation, whatever. In Gita, Krishna speaks eloquently, scientifically, philosophically, and logically how to make your work worship. And that is all important. In the third chapter, Lord Krishna tells that whatever work one does is simply cause of karmic bondage. Yat karoshi yadashnasi yajuhoshi dadasi yat yat tapasyasi kaunteya Takurushva Madarpanam. All that you do, all that you offer and give away, all charity you perform, all austerity you perform should be done as an offering of devotion to me. This is Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste maphaleshu kadachana Ma karma pala heturbhu mate sangostva karmani. Sri Krishna said, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. In the above verse, God is asking his disciple Arjuna to perform his prescribed duty and not get attached to the fruits of its action. If one does all his or her actions without considering or thinking about the fruits, these actions shall produce and devotees that action, and that action shall not bear such fruits, which shall be the cause of his next birth. Once a person is relieved of taking rebirths, then that person can go to the abode of God and live there with Him, and he becomes a liberated soul. Art of doing actions for the sake of God only, and doing all his actions without thinking or keeping in mind the fruit of that actions is only what is called karma yoga. Work is worship, but when work is done as a worship of God, it is called karma yoga. To offer all of your actions to God, to live your life for the God, to service God in every way is actually called the practice of karma yoga. By practicing karma yoga, our future actions shall get purified and all of the bad karmas of our past shall be dissolved. By practicing karma yoga, our heart reaches out to the other people, and through it we see God in all people's hearts. By such devotional practice, divine virtues such as love, mercy, tolerance, kindness, patience, self-restraint, etc. are developed in us. Karma yoga destroys jealousy, hatred, malice, and the idea of superiority in us. Mayi sarvani karmani Sannyasyaadhyatmachetasa Nirashi nirmamo bhutva Yudhyasva vigata jvaraha. Sri Krishna said, therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. This whole world is a creation of God only, and knowingly or unknowingly we all are working for the maintenance of this world only. Just introspect and see that whatever work or job you are doing in this world, it is helping in some way or the other in maintaining and sustaining this world. Just take it in the sense that if all the people of the earth stop doing their daily work, duties, this whole world shall come to standstill. In that case, nobody shall grow food, vegetables, fruits, and other things which sustain our life, and hence we shall all die. Same is the case with other professionals, and each person is adding value to this world by doing his duty. By working for God, we shall attain peace and shall attain God's love and devotion. So, let us all work for God solely. This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which teaches us that we should not give up our work, but perform our work motivated by highest ideals. In Gita, Arjuna speaking in a very pseudo-spiritual way. There is too much confusion in fighting this war, so I am not going to fight. Krishna, my charioteer, I am going to fight. I am going to become a real saint and just practice meditation, whatever. Lord Krishna teaches Arjuna, you must perform your duty, but you must transform your consciousness. Duryodhana was fighting on one side, and he was motivated by envy and greed, while Arjuna was fighting in the spirit of compassion, humility, and love of God. Some people say that Gita preaches work is worship. But if that is all Gita has taught, then it would not be of 700 verses, means shlokas. It would then be just 3 words. Work is worship. In Gita, Krishna speaks eloquently or scientifically, philosophically, logically how to make your work worship, and that is an important one. In 3rd chapter, Krishna tells us that whatever work one has done or one does should be an offering to the Supreme. Otherwise, whatever work one does is simply cause of karmic bondage. All that you do, all that you offer and give away, all charity you perform, all austerities you perform should be done as an offering to devotion. This is the essence of Gita. Krishna says, do not be attached to the fruits of your work and do not be attached to not doing your duty. This is subtle and difficult for many to understand. How to perform duty and not be attached to the fruits of your work? The absolute truth, God is all attractive. Therefore, He has the name Krishna. Lord Brahma prayed that the Supreme Lord Krishna has a body that is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the cause of all causes, says Gita. So, in the way the rays are related to the sun, we are qualitatively one with God. But quantitatively, we are always subordinate to the Supreme as eternal servants. The soul, the conscious force, the life within is certain, full of knowledge and bliss through the senses and through the mind. But really, what gives bliss to the soul? Love. The most fundamental need for every living being is pleasure, and the essence of pleasure is to love and be loved. If you do not hate anyone, definitely you will be loved. If you do not have that type of sense, then there is always emptiness and unfilled question within the heart. This is the essence of Gita and its teachings. Yataha pravrittirbhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarchya siddhim bindanti manavaha. By worship of Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. After this is translated as work is worship, but that is not what Krishna says. If we simply consider work as worship, then we could say that donkey is the greatest worshipper because the donkey works so hard. On the other hand, work is worship is a valid and valuable ethical principle which teaches that everybody should work diligently and responsibly. Nobody should think that my work is too small and worthless, so it should not be done. If we are contributing in any role in the society, then we have to do it properly, and at the same time, nobody should be looked down upon for the kind of work they are doing. Everybody is contributing in their own way, and so all forms of work should be considered valuable. Therefore, in that ethical sense, work is worship is a valid principle, but it is not a philosophical principle and is not a teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Teaching of Bhagavad Gita is by your work is worship the Supreme. This essentially means that God is not disconnected from the world. Some people think in order to worship God, one needs to renounce the world, go to secluded places and worship God. Even Arjuna thought in this way and wanted to give up his Kshatriya duty before the Mahabharata war. There are certain works like the walk where one has to kill animals daily, which if seen from an objective perspective means that such people have to desensitize themselves to the pain of other living beings. Stop seeing those animals as living beings and see them just a source of income. This attitude will diminish their consciousness. If I am not conscious of your pain, then that is actually a decrease in my consciousness. If one cannot perceive the consciousness of beings around them, how can one perceive the consciousness of being who is beyond us? Their conscience will get shrunk, it will get diminished and will not expand towards God. Everything comes from God. But everything does not take us to God. There are things in this world which take us away from God also. Everything attractive comes from God. So the taste of alcohol, which the alcoholics find attractive, also come from God. If they think like this, then one day they will become a devotee of Krishna. Prabhupada is not saying that by drinking alcohol they will become devotee of Krishna, but thinking about Krishna while drinking, the thought of Krishna will stimulate the spiritual connection. Similarly, if somebody is a butcher, meat seller, and they cannot give up their profession for whatever the reason at that particular time, then at least they should do some activity to worship God, connect themselves with God, and give the fruits of what they are earning in His service. By doing so, some level of connection will be established with God. It should be noted that butchery in itself cannot be form of direct worship and is not going to take the butcher towards God. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, worship the Supreme with your work, which means apart from direct worship, your work can also be engaged in worship. Different works have different consequences and effects on the consciousness. Hence, not all work can be equally considered to be a form of worship. The choice of profession is to be based on how it affects the consciousness. There are things which connect us with God, and there are things which disconnect us from God. Even if we cannot give up the things that disconnect us from God, at least we should take up things which connect us to God. That is the beginning which will keep us on the spiritual path. However, if we start thinking that the things that disconnect us from God are the connections with God, then we are fooling ourselves. The Gita indicates that Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, as the Gita states at the Gita, Sarva Karmanyapi Sada Kurvano Madhyapashrayah Matprasada Davapnoti Shashvatam Padamavyayam. My devotees, though performing all kinds of actions, take full refuge in me. By my grace, they attain the eternal and imperishable abode. One can start the practice of Bhakti Yoga right from the beginning if one fortunately comes to know the ultimate goal. In fact, the scope of Bhakti Yoga extends across the entire spectrum from the lowest levels of material conditioning to the highest levels of spiritual realization. Therefore, Gita says, Mam hi pardam vyapashritya yepi syuhu papayonayah striyo veshyastata shudrah stepi yanti param gatim. All those who take refuge in me, whatever their birth, race, sex or caste, even those whom society scorns will attain the supreme destination. It indicates that Bhakti Yoga is accessible to everything or everyone, irrespective of gender, caste, race or such material factors. Significantly, the Gita's vision of love runs deeper than just job compatibility. It recognizes that we are meant to be much more than competent job performers. We are conscious persons who long to love and be loved. This longing for love is often dismissed by many conventional forms of spirituality. They hold the emotions are illusory, and need to renounce to come to reality. The Gita depicts the most evolved spiritualists as delighting in spiritual emotions centered on the supreme spiritual reality, God. To grasp the implications of this, let us look at the three broad attitudes that theistic people often have towards world. What are they? First, recreation. Those with this attitude treat the world as a good place made for the enjoyment. They consider God is existing primarily to provide and protect their worldly enjoyment. Their attitude represents the path of karma. Second, rejection. Those with the attitude see the world as an evil. They see its apparent pleasures as baits that entice and entrap. Those with this attitude focus more on going away from the world than on going towards God. Their attitude represents the path of jnana. Third, reciprocation. Those with this attitude view God as a primary, central reality of existence and see the world as an arena for the reciprocating love with Him, for making offerings of love to Him, and for learning to love Him through life's ups and downs. To them, worldly pleasures are distorted reflections of spiritual joys, and they seek the original, not the distortion. Their attitude represents the path of bhakti. By this devotional vision, we can stay spiritual even while being in material world. श्रीकांताय कल्याण निधे निधेतनाम श्री वेंकटनिवासाय श्रीनिवासाय मंगलम मंगलाशासनपरे मदाचार्य पुरोगमे सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्य सत्कृतायास्तु मंगलम्.